Hi, my name is Sia Pandit. I am 15 years old, living in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I go to Waterford School. I am going to talk about Dharmic traditions versus Abrahamic religions and Kashmiri Shaivism versus Advait Vedanta. So let's get into it. Dharmic traditions of India, which have gotten divided into a multitude of practices and beliefs, draw their existence from the teachings of the Vedas, Puranas, and Upanishads. These traditions can be classified into the following three categories: Advait, Dvait, and Vishisht Advait. First, let's talk about Advait. This school of Dharmic tradition was popularized in India by Adi Shankara in the 8th century AD. Advait is the philosophy of monism or oneness. In this philosophy, the only reality that exists is Brahman. It is Brahman which lies at the root of our consciousness, which is our true identity. This means that we are, right at this moment, Brahman itself, and we can rejoice in the supreme bliss of being Brahman if we can break out of our individual identity. Everyone can achieve this realization by identifying the self as the universal soul or Brahman and not the physical body that they possess. For example, water can exist as solid at low temperature, liquid at normal temperature, and as gas at high temperature. Thus, water can exist in different physical forms, but in its core, it is the same. The Upanishads also proclaim the same concept. Aham Brahmasi, which means I am the Brahma itself, and Tattvam Asi, which means you are that or the Supreme Soul. The objective and goal of Advait philosophy is to search for this root of oneself, which is Brahman. Now let us look at Dvait. This school of Dharmic tradition was promoted by Madhvacharya in the 13th century AD and became the most popular. In Dvait or dualistic tradition, it creates a distinction between the Supreme Soul and the ordinary soul. The Supreme Soul is also known as Paramatma and the ordinary soul is known as Jivamatma. This tradition hence identifies God as a separate entity from ourself, hence dualistic, and generates room for each individual to imagine a personal God. This personal God, who is being identified as someone separate from the self, is then worshipped by the individual. This practice is also known as bhakti. Finally, let's consider Vishisht Advait. This school of Dharmic tradition was promoted by Ramanujarya in the 12th century AD, and it is the least popular. This school of Dharmic tradition is also known as qualified non-dualism. This practice is similar to Advait with a subtle difference. The physical world, including us, are not entirely separate from God. We also have the divine within us. All three concepts can be understood simply by the circles as shown. In Advait, every body is made up of the same basic material, hence a single circle. In Vishisht Advait, all souls are contained within the universal soul, but individual soul is a subset, thus imperfect or incomplete, whereas universal soul is complete. In Dvait, God and humans are separate entities. Let's talk about Abrahamic religions. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, they all recognize Abraham as their first prophet, as God revealed himself to Abraham. Then God was later known by the prophets of these religions, Moses, Christ, and Muhammad. All these religions believe in God as the omnipresent and omnipotent entity who created the world. God is considered to be someone separate from the individual and reveals himself only to his sons or prophets. Let us now compare Dharmic traditions with Abrahamic religions. Karma versus judgment. Dharmic practices believe in the law of karma or action, which is self-regulating, wherein an individual suffers or enjoys the consequences of his or her own actions almost on an immediate basis, whereas in the case of Abrahamic religions, God will judge and deliver justice to the individuals in the future. Concept of time. As per Abrahamic religions, time is unidirectional, linear, and uniform, whereas in dharmic concepts, time is relative, which could not be appreciated by others till Einstein proposed the famous theory of relativity. Reincarnation versus one life. Dharmic traditions believe in reincarnation and that the soul is indestructible and keeps on assuming different bodies in the same fashion as one changes clothes, whereas, as per Abrahamic concepts, every individual just lives for a single life. Approach to science. Abrahamic concepts believe that the entire creation of species took place in one go and that it was brought into existence by God in a matter of 7 days. They do not believe in the theory of evolution. Dharmic traditions do believe in the theory of evolution, which suggests that life evolved from simple to complex forms over a long period of time. This is illustrated by the various avatars or incarnations of God as described in scripture, starting from the aquatic fish, Matsya, to the amphibian turtle, Kurma, to the half-human, half-beast, Narsimha. Abrahamic concepts also believed Earth to be flat and considered Earth to be the center of the universe, whereas Dharmic concepts believed the Earth to be round and revolving around the sun. Now let us look at Kashmir Shaivism. Kashmir Shaivism is also a non-dualistic tradition like Advait, which believes in the universal soul or consciousness. This is known as Shiva as against Advait. However, there are some differences between the two which we shall analyze. First, let us trace the origins of these beliefs and understand some basic tenets of this tradition. Vasugupta, who lived in Kashmir around 8th century CE, is believed to be the composer of the earliest texts related to Shaivism, which became known as Shiva Sutra and were believed to be revealed to him by Shiva himself. Thereafter, the concept was further refined by a series of scholars such as Somananda, Utpal Devya, Narayana Bhatta, and Abhinava Gupta. This knowledge was lost to the world for some time since the scholars went underground due to Islamic invasions till it was reintroduced by Lal Ded in 14th century to some extent and more recently by Swami Lakshmanju in the 20th century. The fundamental philosophy of Shaivism is based on Shiva, or the Supreme Soul, as the ultimate reality. He resides within each and every individual, which one can realize through self-inquiry. Just like Advait Shaivism believes in Shivoham, or I am Shiva, or I can become Shiva, Kashmir Shaivism does not emphasize the need for devotional worship of Shiva as a personal god for self-realization. The relationship between Shiva and the individual soul is not that of a servant and a master. The philosophy also brings forth the concept of Trika, meaning threefold. Kashmir Shaivism is therefore also known as Trika or threefold system because it analyzes the nature of Shiva, Shakti, and Nar. In this format, Shiva is God, Shakti is the power of consciousness of God, and Nar is man, the human being. Trika teaches that Shiva, Shakti, and Nar are not different from one another. In short, man and God are the same. In fact, just the Supreme Self, known as Shiva in this philosophical system, is the self of the entire universe. Shiva is a name for the static aspect of God, and Shakti is a name for the dynamic aspect of God. The concept of Shiva and Shakti can be compared to the particle and wave theory of quantum physics. In this theory, the particles at a subatomic level exist both as a wave and a particle. The particle is the static in Shiva form and the wave is the dynamic in the Shakti form when compared with Shaivism. Kashmir Shaivism also constitutes the model of 36 tattvas or basic building blocks or elements of reality which can be perceived as such. These tattvas are grouped into 3 categories. Shuddh, pure tattvas, consisting of 5 elements brought forth by Shiva for creation, preservation, and destruction of entire creation. Shuddh Ashuddh, pure impure tattvas, consisting of 7 elements pertaining to the attributes of the individual soul or embodied soul. And lastly, Ashuddh, impure tattvas, consisting of 24 elements which constitute the attributes of all physical bodies. Now let us draw a comparison between Shaivism and Advaita philosophy. Both systems are non-dualistic and consider each and every entity as constituting of the universal self. However, at a deeper level, following key differences emerge. While Advaita considers Brahman as static or inactive, Shaivism treats Shiva as being dynamic and active through Shakti. This is also considered to be akin to Spand, meaning vibration, signifying the energy through which entire creation is brought forth, sustained, and even destroyed. In Advaita, the physical manifestation of creation is negated and considered as Maya or unreal, whereas in Shaivism it is not so. Although the concept of Maya does exist in Shaivism, physical existence is considered real, though carrying a lower significance. This needs to be transcended for achieving the higher state of Shiva consciousness. And lastly, Advaita philosophy recommends control of mind and senses for achieving moksha or salvation, while in Shaivism, a seeker is free to live without restrictions and enjoy the pleasure of the senses while pursuing yogic practices. What I have learned from making this video is a little bit about the Vedanta and Kashmiri Shaivism. This would not have happened without the Kashmiri Overseas Organization, so thank you. The reason I got interested in this topic, though, is because of my maternal great-grandfather, late Sri N.K. Kotru, who wrote 2 books on Kashmiri Shaivism. And lastly, I would like to thank my uncle, Ashutosh Zuchi, who has written about these 2 books and has helped me understand all these topics. The end.